affairs during his marriage.
Now, as you got into the fall of 1994, in relation to Miss Sonsini, did she make further references to the fact that she wished the affair to end?
Yes, she, repeated that at the end of the year, she would have to create a new life for herself.
Did you ever say anything about anything happening so that you could be together with her on her birthday?
No, I didn't.
Are you sure, sir?
Yes, I'm sure.
Now, I'd like to direct your attention, if I could, Mr. Newlander, to the nature of a relationship which you had with a Mr. Leonard Jenoff. Did there come a point in time in the summer and the fall of 1994 when you began to have discussions with him about killing someone who was an enemy of Israel?
No.
All right. Did there ever come a point in time where you advised him that you wanted him to kill your wife, Carol?
Never.
There has been a series of questions and answers directed to Mr. Jenoff concerning the subject of paying for Carol's death, of meeting with him in some location near the Sheraton Post, and of hiring him to have Carol killed. Did any of these things ever occur?
Never.
Are you sure?
I am sure.
How about the statement you gave to the police in the morning of November 2nd, 1994? At any time in that interview, were you intentionally trying to mislead the officers?
Yes.
When was that, sir?
When they asked about Carol's and my relationship,
What'd you tell them, sir?
I told them it was whole and a caring, loving relationship.
And that there was no affair that you were having, correct?
Correct.
Now, you understood that your wife had been brutally murdered that night?
I understood that.
You understood that the officers you were talking to were carrying out their sworn duty and bringing the killers to justice?
Yes.
But nevertheless, knowing all that, you made a conscious decision to lie to the officers that morning, didn't you?
Yes, I was embarrassed and humiliated.
And your embarrassment was more important than effectively providing cooperation to the officers at that time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Your personal interests were more important to you than solving the murder of your wife, correct?
Yes.
Fred Newlander testified in his own defense. We kind of had a sense of who he was from the get-go, but this kind of reinforced that perception that he always thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. This is an arrogant guy. I don't think he was able to hide that. It's just who he was.
We arrive at that time in the trial where the closing arguments will be presented, and under our law, the defense goes first, the prosecutor second. Mr. Wickstead, you're closing on behalf of the defendant, Fred Newlander.
The only thing the state has in this case that links Fred Newlander to this conspiracy and murder is the testimony of Leonard Jenoff. That's the only thing. There's a lot of other things, a lot of emotional clouding in the air, a lot of powerful and disreputable and disgusting things that Mr. Newlander did. That's all there. But what does that tell you about this conspiracy to commit murder? Which is what he's on trial for, after all. Not on trial for adultery, not on trial for sordid behavior, not on trial for betraying in an amoral fashion every belief he had that should have had the decent hope to subscribe to. Not on trial for anything. This is murder. This is first-degree murder. This is capital murder. And we better be darn sure, before we listen to the prosecutor tell us why somebody should be put to death, that we've done everything we can to establish his true role in this case.
Why in the world did the state of New Jersey and the Camden County Prosecutor's Office and the Cherry Hill Police Department, why did they pick a man like Mr. Jenoff to bring in here in this case and give testimony? Mr. Jenoff is not in this case because he was chosen by the Camden County Prosecutor's Office and Cherry Hill Police. He's involved in this case because he was chosen, he was specially selected by this man, this defendant. This is a man, this defendant, that is, as the evidence shows, bereft of character. This is a hollow man. This is a man that looks shiny and bright and wonderful from the outside, makes a wonderful appearance, has a mellifluous voice, the solemn demeanor, the bearing of a religious leader. But when you open him up and you look inside, there is nothing of substance there. This is a man capable of planning and hiring someone to kill his wife.
The defense team's strategy was to make Jenoff seem like he was not credible on anything. Who would believe this man who, when taking the stand, confessed to so many fibs, and yet when pressed about what he was saying about the rabbi, stated that this one time he was telling the truth. That's a pretty weak foundation to convict somebody on.
All rise, please.
Counsel, we've received a note from the jury, which I've marked as Court's Exhibit 12. It reads as follows. Your Honor, after revisiting evidence and testimony, we, the jury, have concluded that a unanimous decision on all three counts is not possible. We remain at a standstill and will await further instruction from the court. Thank you, and then it's signed, For Lady. Is there any chance of a unanimous verdict on any one of the three counts if you were to resume deliberations? No. Okay. So on that note, I am going to declare a mistrial, and I do hereby declare a mistrial. The jury, I find, is at a complete standstill. You are deadlocked, and no further amount of time could ever be productive. Thank you.
Well, there was a hung jury, and the rumor was that it was 9-3 to convict. Nobody knows exactly why those three wanted to acquit, but what we did know is that it just wasn't quite enough.
A year after the hung jury, 2001, trial moves to Freehold, New Jersey. The emotion was much higher. You could feel it in the courtroom.
I would have given my right arm for 5 minutes just to sit there with her and hold her hand and tell her that I was there.